Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
Listen to this guy right here coming up next for about 1 minute and 30 seconds. This is something I've said. This is not original. I'm not the first person to say it, certainly not the last. This guy says it, I think, beautifully. So 1 minute and 30 seconds, worth your time. Listen to it. Realize the potential that you have as a man in this society.
I finished my conversation last time I was here. These gentlemen over here threatened me with arrest for my First Amendment right, which, equal treatment under law, right? Thank you. Okay, so today, if y'all threaten to arrest me, make sure you actually have the law that I broke. Go ahead and get GPT chat. This is gonna happen in a minute, and I'm gonna ask for it before you threaten me with arrest, so don't look stupid. Okay, men. So in this population, you have roughly 350,000 people. With the 350,000 people, about 70% of them men. 18 years and older is about 120,000 men. If just 0.1% of the men in this town would do what I do, this city council meeting would be overflowing with men, over 200. If there's more than 200 men here, what do you think happens to these cops when they try to illegally arrest us? What would you do? Would you arrest 200 men for telling you, I don't believe in you and you're a piece of shit? Would you? You see how the tides would turn if y'all would just listen? And then you could take those 200 men and do it across the entire United States at every city council meeting. And it would take the men, 1 hour a month to change the entire world. Men could change the entire world if they just sat up here and did what I did. Thank you for not threatening me for arrest. I appreciate it. Cussing is legal. Right, Mr. Weasley. Mr. Weasley, last time I was here you said cussing was illegal. You have no statement now? Y'all learned. Thank you for your time. Before I leave, your officer also understands constitutional rights, as he told me fuck you in the hallway last time I was here. So fuck you and have a nice day.
Well, what he said was the quiet part out loud. And the quiet part is really simple, is that we could affect change and change everything that's happened to us being institutional slaves if men would just stand up. So today we talk about men standing up and liars sitting down. Please sit down. We think that everything that we are facing today is it's something you can't overcome. How do you overcome something that is so draconian? I mean, we have to look at it from on its face and go, listen, all the stuff that we face, from COVID to the vaccine, losing jobs, being bullied in the market, having this group of people. We talked about the SPLC and the fact that they were manufacturing crimes, manufacturing racism. It's no different, actually, than what the ADL is doing, Anti-Defamation League, of standing on one side of the political aisle and slandering people with impunity on the other, trying to make decisions for different political parties by creating these lies. And everywhere we turn, we see it. I mean, it's hard not to see it. I look at the fact that we have fraudulent elections. We have fraudulent judges and judiciary. The entire idea is, how do we defraud and take away from the American people what was never theirs to take? Yesterday, we had a day. I talked a little bit about the Anti-Defamation League, the SPLC, the ABCs, the Kyle Clarks, all the different entities that attack our free speech while peddling lies to the American people. And I'm the danger. I'm the guy that's the problem. I'm the guy that they can't, that I'm violent. And when we start talking about violence, we have to look at the projection that's happening from their side. I'm the one that lives in a house that's fortified with thermal cameras. I'm the one that has to carry a weapon everywhere I go. I'm the one that's had more death threats over the last 6 years than I could probably count. Even if I had the ability to go back and quantify how many they are, I'd have to also quantify the fact that they sent powder through the mail to my home. They attacked my wife, my children. They did things to make people around me miserable and afraid for their own lives, all in hopes of shutting me up. And so we have this 19th hit piece, the 5th time, actually, that Kyle Clark was writing a piece about me, talking about the synagogue of Satan and people that are Jewish, that hide behind good Jews. In other words, they do evil things over and over and over again, and we're just supposed to accept it. We're supposed to say, no. They can do whatever they want because they're Jewish, and you're not allowed to say anything or you're an anti-Semite. So when I tried to separate the wheat from the chaff and I started saying, listen, we have to do this because good people are going to be victimized by people who aren't smart enough to figure out that these are really just Satanists. And you could look all you want, all over Colorado, and you could tell me, if you can tell me with a straight face and you could justify how Governor Polis, A.G. Weiser, Secretary of State Jenna Griswold, Dan Rubenstein, if you could tell me how those people are not demonic, I'd listen. I don't think you could. It's not a victimless crime and what has been done to steal the voice of the people of Colorado and around the country, but I'm more concerned about Colorado in destroying the Republican Party, putting up candidates that can't win, stealing votes in elections and making people feel like they're slaves. Now, I'm very comfortable with what I said, but Kyle Clark had this. He did another hit piece on me yesterday, so I'm going to be transparent with you. I'm going to put it up there. I'm going to ask you what you think. Go ahead and play it.
A coalition of Jewish groups is asking Colorado Republican leaders to reject MAGA podcaster Joe Oltmann's run for state party chair. Oltmann has called for the execution of Colorado's leaders, calling them a synagogue of Satan Jews.
They're demons. These are evil devils.
MAGA podcaster Joe Oltmann from Douglas County says Colorado's governor, attorney general, and secretary of state, who are all Jewish, should be tried for treason and executed.
The synagogue of Satan is a real thing. These are devils. These are demons.
9 News has learned 3 Jewish organizations recently wrote a letter to Colorado Republican Central Committee members who will decide if Oltmann becomes the next state party chairman. The Anti-Defamation League Mountain States, Jewish Community Relations Council, and Colorado Jewish Action Alliance said Oltmann is putting lives at risk with his, quote, dangerous and repeated anti-Semitic rhetoric. The letter echoes similar concerns privately voiced by the same Jewish groups in a letter to the Colorado GOP in January. At the time, Oltmann was running for governor, a race he left to become the only prominent name running for Colorado GOP chair.
I'm going to sue you, all of you.
Oltmann is now threatening a lawsuit against the Jewish groups and calling them satanic.
That our state is literally rotted to the core right now because of pieces of like you. I won't apologize for it. I won't apologize for talking and speaking the truth.
In their letter to Colorado's Republican Party insiders, the Jewish groups said electing Oltmann would send an unmistakable message, writing that Colorado's Jewish community and all who value public safety, human dignity, and responsible leadership are watching closely.
Oltmann has applied his synagogue of Satan label to a variety of Jewish people, from a Republican district attorney on the Western Slope to a Democratic state senator in Aurora, to a random online commenter who simply had a traditionally Jewish surname.
I don't know anything about what he's saying about the traditional Jewish surname. But I didn't call for the execution of anyone. I said they should be tried for treason, and when found guilty, they should face the penalty for treason, which, anybody want to tell me what that is? It's very simple. It's death. And the thing that we keep pushing up against is it violence? Is it violence? Is what I'm calling for violence? Is what's happening in the state of Colorado 5 times in the last 250 years, the public has said, yes, tax me more. 3 times since 2020, that has happened in Colorado. So the people of Colorado are moving out in droves, but they elected to raise the taxes on themselves and triple their property tax. No, it's not possible. Matter of fact, the only 5 times that it's been asked, all 5 times it's passed. 3 of which in Colorado. We have stolen elections and we have a system designed to steal the voice of the people. And the entire time you have people like Kyle Clark, Anti-Defamation League, and these guys, which by the way, they're all radical leftists that are now reaching into the Republican Party on our side and saying they're creating a narrative that's not true. I want to protect the good people out there. And by the way, I'm not a self-loathing Jew. And since I share heritage on Christian, Jewish, Catholic, I'm a mutt. And people that I represent and that I say these things for, they don't feel safe to say these things themselves, include a rabbi. Many, many, many Jewish families that feel like they're held hostage as well. And if you think that's a lie, then call someone. You've never been over to Israel. Call someone that lives in Israel and ask them if there is civil unrest and if most of the people support the leadership of Israel. They'll tell you no. They'll tell you no. I just had this conversation with a good friend of mine, literally inside of my office. And he goes, Joe, I would not disagree with you with what's happening in the separation between good people and these bad people that hide behind them and then use the dog whistle of anti-Semite in order to protect themselves. We've got to be honest about the outcome and the consequences for bad people doing bad things to good people and then hiding behind other people. And when criticized, use the word anti-Semite. And if you don't like the synagogue of Satan, it's in Revelations 2:9, Revelations 3:9. I'm repeating that it says in the Bible that people will literally say that they are Jewish and hide behind good people when in actuality they are a part of the synagogue of Satan. Go check it out. So now it's unpopular for you to talk about what is in the Bible, or conveniently you can only go to Genesis 3 and say, hey, if you don't bless Israel, you can't be blessed. This selective use of the Bible in order to be either a bully stick or a bully pulpit is, I find, reprehensible. Lots of people right now across the country are suffering as a result of the behavior of a cartel, a criminal group of people around the country. So I call it out. You don't have to like it. Truth is an awful thing, but I'm going to continue to speak it. I'm going to skip forward a little bit. We can talk about, after our guest comes in, we can talk a little bit more about this piece. Maybe you'll have a little bit of a thought on this. And for you in the comment that says, yeah, so yes, I'm not a self-loathing Jew. And yes, a good portion of my family is Jewish. They live in Israel. You have to be able to call bad people, and they don't get to hide behind good people. And what most people don't understand is that this is why we had people that literally lumped them all together. The same thing that we did in World War II, the Japanese internment camps. We said everyone's bad because of a few bad actors. When you separate the bad actors, you separate the wheat from the chaff, a lot of good things happen. Because then people start to identify them as running just a criminal family, a cartel of really bad people that use an identity in order to shadow or to cover up their improprieties against our society, our communities, our states, our nation. We have a guest coming in. His name is Brian Kelleran. He's an investor, speculator, and market player. He's an accountant. We're going to have a good time talking about this because I predicted the outcome of silver and gold. I wonder if we'll get a chance to talk about that. He's the founder of the Contrarian Corner, creator and voice behind Contrarian Corner, a platform and podcast dedicated to deep dive conversations on investments, finance, and microeconomics. He's an investment specialist. I'm curious to see how he's done. I've done fairly well over the last 5 or 6 years. Following his tenure in public accounting, he spent over a year as an independent investor and contributing writer for Seeking Alpha, focused on individual equity research and market analysis. He focused on distilling complex insights from macroeconomic experts and financial data into actionable research for his subscribers, emphasizing a boots-on-the-ground approach to market ideas. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me on.
And you're young.
Yeah, no,
I love this.
Not a old chicken. So I got I get the question all the time, like, how old are you? And it's like basically when I say 30, people are surprised. So that's the.
Do you know how excited I am? I didn't even know. I haven't watched your podcast, but you'll see that I talk a lot about young people, and the young people. This is a young man's game, right? Young people need to take control of things. Right now, they're just sitting at home. We wouldn't have had the beaches of Normandy or the ability to win World War II without young people.
Yeah, no, I think it's there's a lot of things where you see the generational divide in some of these different topics that I think are fascinating to watch, and I think a bunch of people my age are ready to see some major changes on a bunch of different fronts. And I think the next 10 years are going to basically decide what happens in the U.S. for hundreds of years. So it's going to be fun to be around.
So you worked for the Big Four. You worked for Deloitte, EY. Who'd you work for?
KPMG. So
KPMG.
Yeah, I got stuck in the Seattle office and stuck basically. It was all remote work post COVID, so it was a little bit of a shit show, basically. So
well, tell everyone how many hours a day you had to work.
I can give a horror story, I guess. Basically, I would say on average is like 50, 55, and then it obviously ticks up in the busy season, but the worst stretch I had, I think this is past the statute of limitations. I got put on the Value Village IPO job, and that was basically from, I think, the September before I left to mid-October. We didn't have a single day off. We worked 8 to 8, and that was like the average day. So basically 12, 14-hour days every day for 6-7 weeks. So was working for people I was not a fan of, and they were pushing different agendas as far as the clot shot and all that. So I was like, yeah, this is not the place for me. So that's when I kind of decided it was time to move on to the next thing.
Are you vaccinated?
No.
You're pure blood.
Yep.
Are you married yet?
No, I haven't found a woman worth keeping. So it's
I got to play matchmaker here. We got to find you. We got to find you someone.
Well, I mean, I figure moving out to Idaho, which I did a couple of years ago, is better than staying in Seattle. So that's
So I mean, which part of Idaho?
Boise.
All right, it's a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a little bit over the top on the a little crazy, kind of like Austin-ish, but good on the outskirts as long as you stay on the outside a little bit.
I don't think it's. I think people see headlines for Boise. I don't think they understand that basically the average person out here is just as right wing as anyone out in the sticks. So I think the idea that
they
all
lie.
the women are blue hairs with nose rings and like tattoo sleeves, I think that's the exaggeration. So
what's wrong with tattoo sleeves? I mean, there's nothing wrong with tattoo sleeves.
I'm not a big fan of tattoos on women. So let's just.
Not on women. No. But we can have them. I
don't have any tattoos, but that's just another personal decision. So. Yeah.
So you moved to Idaho. My in-laws live in Driggs, Idaho. It's not that far, just a little south.
Okay.
Let's talk about some investment stuff because I want to. So I like to invest a lot. It's kind of like my gaming, although I lost my rear end in crypto. What's your thoughts on crypto?
Generally, not a big fan of crypto for the most part. I'm definitely partial to the precious metal side of things, basically hard assets, commodities, and stuff like that. But when I look at crypto, I think there's certain applications that can be useful. But when you start getting into the stuff that's happening with Bitcoin and the stuff that's going on with stable coins and kind of all these different things where like you see Tether basically stocking up on gold, you see all these different things that are, I think, leading to, I mean, people call the CBDC and like basically see how it's going to be the end of the world, but I think they're kind of trying to do a lot of that stuff with stablecoins and use it as a backdoor to a lot of the digital control stuff. So,
you mean like point over there and say this is coming, this is coming, this is coming, when actually they're a part of the actual system to make it come?
Well, it's like everyone's kind of been talking a lot about CBDCs, and it's going to be direct from the Treasury or from kind of the Federal Reserve, or right, whether it's in Europe, right, different vehicles for it. But if you have a so-called private company like Tether or some of these different stablecoin issuers, and they just happen to hold a bunch of treasuries, but I mean, there's a lot of things where you can get into the weeds on hey, you have to spend all this or it disappears in a month, so you can't save. You have to, like, you have restrictions on what you can use as far as, like, you can't withdraw any cash with these stable coins, or you can't go and buy firearms or steak or cigarettes or anything they decide is not good for the people. But I mean, their definition of good and not good is very subjective. So I wouldn't trust many of those types with that kind of power.
Well, it's funny you said that because I have 3 gun stores, 5 ranges, and we're one of the largest sellers of guns and ammo in the state of Colorado. But I'm going to take a quick. I'm going to show you something really quick. This is a new commercial that I've barely seen. So
Okay.
just to give you an idea of oh, you are? All right, we won't do that yet. You're driving me crazy. See, it totally screwed up my game. It just screwed me up. But they won't let me actually take Bitcoin or a coin inside of the gun store because they said it's a forbidden environment.
Interesting.
So some of these platforms are already starting to limit or eliminate our ability to transact on guns. Now, we had to get past this when we started growing rapidly, but you know, this is a real thing. It's guaranteed by the Constitution. It comes right after freedom of speech, and yet you have entire currencies that are limiting your ability to transact on those things because they're the arbiters of reality.
Yeah, no, I think the biggest problem too, when you look at something like Bitcoin and Ethereum and some of the stuff that's happened as Wall Street's gotten more involved is right when you see kind of the futures markets and ETFs and all these different effectively derivatives, then you can see kind of the price manipulation that I think has been a big part of why gold took so long to really get moving over the past 40 years. Because I think if you have powerful people that don't want the gold price to start showing, hey, there's people questioning the current financial system, then you're going to have all the tools in the toolbox to kind of manipulate the price and have certain narratives be the dominant ones.
So let me let's talk about gold and silver for a minute. I had Gold Fix on, and are you familiar with him?
Yeah,
Gold
Vince
Fix?
Lanchi.
Yeah.
Vince is a good guy.
Vince is my buddy. He's awesome. And in October, or is it August of last year, I said, silver's going to go to $200. He's like, no. I was like, look, it's going to go to 100 in less than 12 months. He's like, yeah, you're totally wrong. And so I called him and I was like, you ready to get on? I just need to hear those words, Vince. Do it for me. Just say, you're right. You're right. What do you think is going to happen? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think it is right to have a certain amount of caution. And I think the kind of long-term secular view for the precious metals is that we are going way higher because that's going to be kind of a pressure release valve. And like, I think 200 an ounce by the end of the decade is basically a lock from here for silver. Gold, I think, when you see kind of the trend on the central bank side and the other large institutions that are basically piling into it, I think you're looking at 10,000 an ounce. And again, part of this is what's going on with the currency and the devaluation and the inflation that everyone kind of sees. The kind of dark horse, I think, is actually kind of the most interesting is platinum. And that's one that most people, even the gold and silver, I mean, bugs is kind of a derogatory term, but even the gold and silver bugs will basically look at you and say, like, platinum, really? And if you look at the supply and demand setup where you basically lay out where's the stuff going to come from, where are we going to use it, we're basically in a 1 million ounce deficit every year for the last 3 years, and we've got, I think, 2 million or 2.5 million ounces above ground inventory. So like in the next 2 years, you're basically going to see, I think, just a massive move to the upside where platinum, I think, will eventually pass gold, and it's actually a lot more scarce too. So I think that's something to consider for people where just for people that are visual learners, if you like got all the gold in the world that's been mined in history and put it in a room, you could fill up, I think, 3 Olympic swimming pools. If you got all the platinum and did the same thing, you'd fill up 1 Olympic swimming pool to your ankles. So it's like 30 times more scarce. And I think it's a pretty interesting place to be looking. So that's kind of where I'm partial to.
So you're dropping money into platinum?
So I haven't put any new money to work in platinum for a while. I did a good chunk of buying over the last, like early last year, kind of after the whole tariff liberation day circus. Right now I'm kind of looking at some of the precious metals stocks and equities just because that's, like I've got plenty of physical. And if I start, like there's a limit to how much physical you can hold personally without, getting into vaults and having to pay for storage and all this other stuff. So, I think it makes sense to have a certain amount of like personal, like in your house type precious metals, just because like if the shit really does have to hit the fan, you're going to want it easily accessible. So it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So that's kind of my opinion on that. But I think the kind of commodities stocks and some of the equities I think are pretty interesting even after some of the run they've had over the last 12 months.
Do you think there's going to be a problem with platinum pricing because they're looking for replacement alternatives for how it's utilized? Because it's a highly used product as well, right? So
Yeah.
they are looking for replacements in the metallurgy as far as how to replace that particular product because of the scarcity of the product itself. Is that a concern for what you see pricing do if they start to move away from it?
Well, I think that's kind of why it's taken so long for platinum to kind of get up off the floor of like $1,000 an ounce. Like everyone was kind of assuming, hey, like electric vehicles are going to come in and basically set things up where, right, if you don't have an internal combustion engine, you don't need catalytic converters. And so, right, that means no platinum group metals. And, right, everyone's kind of realized the EV narrative is not all it's cracked up to be. And so now that kind of leads to, okay, where's the money going to come from now? And hybrids actually take 10 to 15% more platinum group metals than like your typical gas vehicle. So I think we're actually going to see that surprise people over the next 5 or 10 years as more and more hybrids become common. And if you look at the jewelry demand and you look at the other industrial uses, I think we're going to see that tick up as well. Like, if you get into some of these different supply chains, it's very interesting to look at how much of the like F-35s and missiles and all these different pieces like require very high purity gold and silver and platinum group metals and rare earths and all these different things. And like all these supply chains are basically dominated by China, or we don't really have that here in the US. So I think that's a place to be kind of keeping an eye on that stuff over the next 5 years. I think that's something that the U.S. definitely needs to have a focus on.
So if we, I mean, so I was just looking up some of the things that just making sure that I understand what they're doing with palladium and rhodium as far as replacements for platinum, which are a little bit more readily available, but also on that same scale of metals that are kind of shooting through the roof.
Well, rhodium's actually, I think, more rare than platinum is. I think that's the only place you actually mine that, as far as I know, is in the Bushveld complex in South Africa. And then palladium, I think, is a bit more common, but it really just depends on kind of the mine and the area you're looking at. So I think the Stillwater complex in Montana, that's kind of the only palladium mine here in the U.S. And then there's some spots in Canada and places in South Africa they're looking at developing mines, but really it's still dominated by Russia and South Africa for the palladium side.
And they don't really have another replacement. Most of that's used in catalytic converters. But what are you recommending people do as far as spend money on different precious metals? If you were closing your eyes, obviously I'm not going to say that this is an investment strategy. They can follow you on these strategies, but if you're closing your eyes and said, okay, I'm going to put some money aside and I'm looking for an average return of say 15% a year, what would you buy?
Well, I think it depends on your kind of risk appetite and what your time horizon is. If you're going to be looking to buy something and sell it in a month or 3 months or 6 months, then you're not going to want to buy physical because you're going to get dinged on the way in and dinged on the way out for the premiums. So I think that's something to be aware of, is if you can sit on this stuff for a certain amount of time, then I prefer physical. Like I have physical gold, silver, and platinum. And I think that's kind of the way to do it if you're not looking to offload this stuff in the next 12 months. If you are, there's physical ETFs. I would stay away from GLD and SLV, kind of the two main ones that have, I think, JP Morgan and was it HSBC as custodians. I would stay away from those just because they, I don't think they have the gold and silver in those ETFs. So I would go with.
Wait, hold on, time out. You don't think they have the gold and silver?
No,
you think you think they're using leverage rates against that?
Well, I think with the rehypothecation and derivatives and all these different things going on, I think those ETFs are it's basically just a matter of time. Like they're doing the house of cards and they can keep these things going as long as there's no issues. But even as we kind of saw last year, like Black Friday, when there's like the market outage. I think the futures markets were shut down because of some, they basically blamed it on a data center and said there's weird stuff going on. But if you look at stuff like that, that's because someone big was asking for physical delivery on silver. And that was right before silver was basically off like a rocket. And you see kind of bifurcation of these commodities markets where the Chinese side, their markets are basically set up for physical delivery of platinum, palladium, silver. You name it. That's what their markets are designed to do. And our markets here in the West are basically paper markets designed to give people price exposure, right? And so when you have markets here in the West where like the single day volume is 5 times the annual silver mine supply in one day, right? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? There's not a real justification for that as far as physical industry or some of those things. So that's what I'll say is like there's a lot of leverage in the system. And like I'm not the guy to tell you exactly how, like, here's how they use derivatives, here's exactly how much silver or gold some of these ETFs have. But I don't think, given their past history, you can trust some of the big banks to basically have the gold or silver that they say they do.
All right. So what about playing the exchange arbitrage from China to the United States? Like right now, the silver pricing is like 73, 75, whatever it is today. But that same price index in China could be somewhere between $100 and $120 an ounce.
Yeah, I'm just pulling it up here, seeing what the price is today.
And just so you know, I gave a friend of mine a bunch of silver to take to China, and he took it to China because I was like, all right, well, I got a bunch of silver. Do you want me to just ship it over with you? He's like, yeah, I'll do that. And we made like 40 grand. We hit the maxes for how we could do it, made 40 grand. He flew back over. That's after we paid everything else. Came back, then I came back and bought it again here, and it was an easy way to make money. Yeah,
well, that's the thing is if you can do it in size, then you can and do it legally where the Chinese government will let you get your money out, right? Then I think that's something where
they'll let you if you declare it. If you tell them what you're doing and you tell them why you're doing it, you do it in advance and you make sure that you have proper custodians there, that you're getting it's easy. The problem is they only let you do it a certain number of times before they then want you to register and then go through tariffs and then they
work
try
with
to suck
JP
dollars
Morgan
off it.
or
which I won't do.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is that's definitely something that is an option. Like right now, I'm looking at the other screen here. The Chinese markets at 86 and here in the US we're at 75. So it's still like over 10, 15% premium. And you can do the math on like how that gets pretty interesting as far as like the number of ounces, right? You obviously have travel and other expenses, but like there are definitely big players that are contributing to the drain of physical metals into China and into kind of other countries. I think the month of March, they had record silver imports for China, like is basically a massive spike in what they're bringing in. So
which actually drove down pricing because it was like 140, 150. Like it was up there compared to what it was in the United States. I think that same time frame it was like 110 or something here, 105. I don't remember, but it was a pretty big difference. It was more like 30 or 35 points.
It looks like it taps 139 in kind of on the peak before you had the interesting day on was it 30% or whatever it was. That was totally organic. No price manipulation there. No price games there. But
or 100% price manipulation.
yeah, no, it's interesting to kind of see these things happening though, where eventually they're going to run out of leverage and derivatives when some of these markets don't have the metal, and some of these markets are not actually that big either. Like the platinum market, you get one kind of medium to large institution that they could basically corner the platinum market with 10% of their fund. So like all it takes is a couple of big players to wake up and see some of the imbalances in some of these markets. And I think that's a very interesting place to be looking. So the thing I'll add on silver too, with kind of the manipulation side, is I think it's very hard for people to see how long it's been, like what has happened to the dollar and where silver like would be trading if it was a organic like free market. And you look at how, like, even just since I was little, like you go and grab a burger, like a nice sit down restaurant for $5 or $6, and now it's 18 or 20 or whatever it is. And you look at the same thing for silver, you start running the math on like the currency units and all that, like you're looking at well into the triple digits, not just 200 an ounce. Like I think this cycle, like people are calling for 1,000 an ounce. Like I have no idea if it goes that far, but I think we're going well past like $200 in this cycle, whether that's 5 years out, 10 years out. Like I think that's one of the better ways to preserve your wealth without taking company risk, without taking counterparty risk, right? If you hold the physical metal in your possession, then you're not worried about what a bank will do or worried about what some ETF custodian will do or anything like that.
So let me ask you a question, and this is something most people don't know about. What if silver, you know, you have you have these things called TRQs. Are you familiar with those?
What's
So
that?
those are the tariff rate quotas. So those are used on commodities and
Okay.
agriculture, but also used on metals, like mostly steel and aluminum. So as of right now, it's not been applied to silver, but it could be. And if they were able to apply it to silver, you'd see the price of silver that would skyrocket because they would limit the amount that was allowed to in or out of specific countries. In this case, we're talking about the United States. Is that a real risk? Is this something you'd even looked at before, or?
I would say the risk of that happening for gold is effectively zero. For silver, it might be a little bit higher, but I still think with the amount that we produce versus other countries, it's very hard to see the justification for a silver tariff. I'm not saying that's impossible, but it's much more, I would say it's a lot closer to reality than a kind of tariff on gold, if that makes sense. Because if you start putting kinks in the system as far as the gold side of things, that opens up Pandora's box of what else could happen.
So the only reason I say that is because if you look at Section 232 related to this, and I remember dealing with this overseas in the Middle East, the exemptions that you have, they just now applied or created and made silver a critical mineral, right? And under 232, critical minerals are subject to tariffs, right? They are subject to quotas, quotas. So, in the same thing, you know, they do this quite a bit on sugar. That's why you have, you know, sugar prices are normal, or they're just steady because it stops the influx of sugar from overseas. But because they did that, I look at it and go, oh, is there a risk of it becoming subject to the TRQs and under the 232? And if it did, it could do one of two things. It could drive the price into the dirt, get it down to $10, $11, or it could drive it all the way up to $200.
I don't think we're ending up at $10 an ounce anytime soon, but kind of regardless of take out a mortgage on the house and lever up. But
I would just sell the house and buy a vault. That's all I would do, and I'd live in the vault with the silver.
No, it's I don't think we're going to see some massive sell off here. I think this is kind of the like sideways chop, like people lose interest and take some time for the market to work these things out. But like I'm still pretty positive on silver and gold for next 6 months, basically into the end of the year. But As far as the tariff side, I think it's something that would be like, I don't think we're going to start using trade policy to monkey around with silver. As far as the rare earths and the other like critical components, you're absolutely going to see things like price floors and like stockpiling, strategic involvement from government for some of these different things.
Pricing.
Well, if you're looking at like opening up a monazite mine or some of these different rare earth deposits, right? You can't do the math on, I mean, basically China's been subsidizing some of these different industries, whether it's copper and aluminum smelting or rare earths refining, all these different things. And so if you try and run like the NPV or the investment calculations here in the West, because we have this illusion of free markets, people are going to look at that and say, like, no, I don't, like, I'm not going to go open up this mine. So what's that?
Say it again. The illusion.
Oh, the illusion of free markets. Yeah.
So tell everyone what you mean by that.
Well, the way I'll put it is like free markets are basically a myth, and it's never been a real possibility. It's just not how humans work. Exactly. And I think there are signs that you see more and more people waking up to this fact, but and part of it's as simple as like the price manipulation going on in oil with what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz, and you see all these different things where it's conveniently timed tweets about ceasefire or not ceasefire, and then you see someone opening up $500 million short position or whatever it is right before. So people are like waking up to the fact that, hey, these markets are they're not just price discovery, right? They're not designed just to make the economy more efficient and get goods where they need to go when they need to get there, right? There's a lot of different things where people are in there playing games, and there's a lot of money to be made if you have a guy who knows a guy, or if you, right, there's the saying, someone always knows, right? And you see it in some of these different things that happen in the market, and it's becoming more and more obvious to everyone.
Well, so I can actually say this because it's been well over 20 years. But I made my first $1 million off of a guy that called me and said, cash out everything you have, borrow as much money as you can, and put it in this stock. And I went, are you serious? He goes, now. You have until tomorrow at 4 o'clock. And I was like, okay. So I did. And I was a young man, and I made well over $1 million in 2 weeks. Literally, off of, I think it was like $71,000. It was crazy.
Yeah. There you
and
go.
then he called me and he said, now take it out. And I said, okay. So I took it out. So it is really who you know. And I say that because, and they've been insider trading forever. I mean, people have been insider trading forever. Look at Congress. Congress does it every day. They actually affect policy and then, drive up a stock, and they're investing in it first. Let me ask you a question about AI and how you see that playing a part in all this as well, because you can train AI to do certain things that will manipulate the market. You're seeing more of it every day where the markets go like this, right? Buy at the low, sell at the high, buy at the low. So you have people that are making huge amounts of money, including myself, off trying to look at what that trend looks like. What is the candlestick telling us today, right?
Yeah, I think it's hard to put too much into like this being like day-to-day moves having actual significance as far as, hey, this is what this means. And I think people just take whatever the narrative is and trying to apply it. And sometimes it is like, oh, here's why oil is moving and here's why this is happening. But I think it's really a lot, like there's a lot that's driven by market positioning and the call options, put options, and the different derivatives that are in play. And so when you see like everyone get on one side of the boat and everyone's freaking out, then you get kind of the S&P rally we had recently. And I think if you look at valuations, like none of this makes sense as far as the AI tech stocks being where they are. Like the CapEx boom that's going on can't last. And that's kind of besides the point. Like if you look at how much more efficient some of these models are going to have to get, right? The real bottleneck for AI is not the eggheads in Silicon Valley coming up with the next like iteration of the model. It's, can you get the physical commodities and build out the supply chain and the utilities and the power and the infrastructure for all this stuff, right? And so they're gonna. I was just gonna say they're gonna have to figure out how to make this stuff more efficient and realize the bottleneck is like the physical commodity side and the scarcity that's been built in there from kind of past 15 years.
All right, so I want to talk specifically about what you're saying, because I think the luster of AI is kind of wearing off in a large way, because it's a one-trick pony. Now everyone has that pony. And what we've been experimenting on inside the tech that we work on our side is microtizing the tech. So I could put it on a 600, Blackwell 600 or 6000 series, and just have it inside the office, and it can do the same thing and have the same power as, connecting to a Grok or a, Perplexity or any of that, or any of those things. So do you think maybe they're overbuilding to AI as well? Because, I mean, frankly, the more I look at it on the tech side, and I'm on the tech side, I don't see the use case being, I see it being problematic, because it drifts too frequently if you don't have it specifically trained on a specific task.
Yeah, I mean, this is not my area of expertise, I guess, but what I can say from looking at just what I've done in the past and some of the projects I've been working on the side, that if you don't keep the AI focused on certain things, then it'll forget or hallucinate or have these different errors. And sometimes it'll just basically make shit up. Like that's where you have to have some level of expertise in whatever you're asking about. Otherwise, you'll blow right through it and just assume that's right. And there'll be something in there that is just completely ridiculous as far as, hey, it's citing this number or citing this study or completely making up some, legal code.
Making up a study. Making up a study.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is you have no idea unless you have a little bit of background and can say, hey, this, even if you're just asking about, I was doing some digging into kind of the refining and supply chain side of things. And it's basically running calculations with gold at 3,500. And that was when it was at 4,800, 5,000, right? So it's you have to poke and prod it into the right direction. But I think it's something where if you aren't having the critical thinking while you're using it, then you're going to miss pieces. As far as the kind of downloading, having a kind of AI or language learning model that is not connected to Grok or Gemini or one of the kind of bigger kind of hyperscaler models, I think that's something that I've kind of played around with a little bit, but it's going to be, unless there's some open source kind of revolution, I have a hard time seeing how that becomes something that is used at scale.
Well, I mean, they're proving right now that it can't be used at scale. Is really what they're proving, because they have to reset the Grok, even Grok itself, every 7 to 10 days. So every 7 to 10 days, they got to hit the reset button and go make sure that they're pulling back on what Grok is actually learning. And here's
otherwise, it gets good at pattern recognition.
Yeah. Well, and it's the dead internet's a real thing, so they get to pick and choose what direction, even when they're talking about what truth is. I mean, they'll make up all sorts of stuff and say, all right, I don't care about your feelings, and then it'll say, oh, you have to care about people's feelings. So now you can be a unicorn or a cat and have a litter box in the corner. So it's literally forgetting science and being trained that way. And that's why large language models are so dangerous, because it really is machine learning. It's not AI. And until you start applying NPUs, neural processing units, to the mix of CPUs and GPUs, you'll never get to a place where it starts to truly think for itself. And when it does, it throws out all this nonsense we have in our society.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, if you look at the things that have happened in California over the past, 20 years, right? That bias that is basically how Silicon Valley has been built up, right? That's going to get plugged into what comes out of the AI, right? Garbage in, garbage out, right? It's the same thing for computer models as it is for humans. So that's kind of the oversimplified way of looking at it. But I think you're right on that. We're not going to get some artificial intelligence out of the LLM style AI, right? It's going to take kind of another step or a completely different direction. And I think one of the things that's interesting is if you dig into it, I think the military or different agencies, ones that we probably don't even know the name of, I would guess their technology on this is 20, 30 years ahead of what is publicly available. So for all I know, they could be already working on some of the different neural networks or different things that are just kind of starting to be talked about. So that's the little tinfoil hat kind of conspiracy side of things.
It's not conspiracy theory, though. I mean, what you're saying is absolutely true.
Yeah.
I mean, the quantum computers have been around for at least a decade, and they've been used for wargaming since, again, at least the last decade. And you wouldn't have some of the things that we have so quickly that happened in 2020 that didn't just pop up and people say, okay, well, we're going into a lull and everyone's staying home, so now we're going to become more efficient. It was a reset on what the expectations were from the public and what we were able to push out, get them excited after basically browbeating them to death during that pandemic.
Well, it's like, just look at the SR-71. Like, that came out 50, 60 years ago, and people are still driving, 68 Mustang at the time, right?
Yeah.
So you can see the technology gap of what the military is working on and what the agencies are working on versus what is kind of available to the broader public.
Yeah, the SR-71s also leaked like sieves, so they didn't get it all right.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, like, there are going to be pros and cons to any of the like very leading edge technologies, and I think this is one of the other rabbit holes I've been down recently is some of the stuff with geothermal energy. Yeah, and I think they basically let out several different technologies in the last handful of years that is going to make that a massive source of energy in the Western United States, where it's a lot more viable. Basically, like, there's different drilling technologies that will pulse the rock ahead of the drill bit. And so it's going to make it a lot more, basically, you're able to go a lot deeper at a much better price versus the old technology where you'd be melting drill bits and destroying equipment. And so, like, to get to 2 miles, it would cost you 10 times as much as it would be to go 1 mile deep. And if you look at some of the geothermal wells, like, you can produce 50 or 100 megawatts from a single well. And you start to factor in some of the other oil and gas technologies, and you're looking at multiple wells tied into a single surface location and all that. I mean, you're talking similar amounts of power from a geothermal operation as like a nuclear plant.
Yeah, and with no waste.
Yep.
Or limited or almost non-existent waste. And they've been talking about this since the beginning of time. Matter of fact, Nikola Tesla talked about, basically getting energy and getting the ability to produce energies from the earth, specifically.
Yep. Well, that's the thing is we're going to get to a point where I think energy can be too cheap to meter. It's just there's certain agendas that would not be a big fan of that. And right, you can go down the rabbit hole of, hey, is it going to be thorium molten salt reactors? Is it going to be uranium? I'm not a big fan of the small modular reactors approach on some of the uranium stuff. I understand why they're doing it, but I think there's better ways. If you had like a central planner that was basically pulling the levers and actually had the best interests of the country in mind, I think you'd see massive investment in natural gas plants in certain areas. I think you'd see massive investment in the thorium technology because, right, you're not going to get anything you can make nukes out of from the thorium side. You're going to be looking at geothermal, depending on your location, or you're not going to just, right, put it anywhere and everywhere. But if you look at the kind of western half of the United States, it's a prime hotspot for that technology. So it is a little bit dependent on where you put it, but I think there's a lot of technologies that we're going to see in the next 20 years that'll make energy very, very cheap.
And all it keeps doing is going up now because they keep limiting or eliminating sources of, in Colorado, they just tried to eliminate natural gas. It's completely antithetical to being a good human. And they're doing stuff to make it more difficult for us.
Yeah, well, that's the kind of Malthusian agenda if you go back far enough. But it's one of those things where you see all these different supply chains having issues, and it's going to be very interesting to see how it all plays out. Like California in particular is in really rough shape as far as their refining base and some of the stuff that's going on there. Like they've just had 2 more refineries shut down in the last 6 months.
It leaves 2 left.
No, I think it's 7. But there's 4 more that have basically said, hey, if you don't like figure out this cap and trade, cap and invest, whatever they're calling it now, then we're going to be shutting down as well. So it's very interesting. I just had a guy who worked at the Valero refinery that shut down in January on my podcast, and he lays out like the whole the whole chain of events that's going to happen over the next couple months and how
It's
it could
Michael?
impact the rest of the U.S. Huh?
You have Michael on?
Mike Ariza, yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome. He was on Thursday or
Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah, no, he's a good guy, and we were kind of getting into, right, okay, if you have issues because you're not getting any fuel imports from Asia and your infrastructure isn't able to, right, offload all this oil, and that means the port shuts down, right, and the amount of food, like, more food comes in through that port than any other port in the U.S., right? So if you start having that supply chain having problems, you can't get diesel for the trucks, like, it basically... The worst case scenario is it turns into absolute chaos in California and spreads quickly because Nevada and other states are relying on California for their oil and, I mean, gas and diesel as well. So
There's so much going on right now. It's hard to keep up with it. And I just do everything I can to just read about it every morning. I wake up and start reading about, where's our energy? Where's our precious metals? Where's our stocks? I make traditional stocks. I love playing traditional stocks just because it's fun for me.
yeah, no, it's there's definitely a lot of stuff going on. There's certain things that I've started to tune out, like the day-to-day tweets on the wax on, wax off on the Strait of Hormuz, whether it's open or closed. But no, I think there's definitely opportunities out there, especially for people that are looking for stuff that's undervalued. It's just probably not going to be in the Apple and Microsoft and Nvidia and kind of that kind of sector of the market. As far as if you're looking for something that's cheap, it's probably not going to be the $4 trillion, $5 trillion company or whatever the market cap is these days on some of those. So I think it makes sense to be looking a lot smaller.
Well, I agree with you fully. What's fascinating is that I can bring up a bunch of stuff with you, and you're young. So there's two things that have to happen. One, you've got to make sure yourself. I'll make sure we share this everywhere. We got to make yourself more available. I'd love to have you and Vince on the show at the same time. That should be really interesting.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be a fun three-way conversation.
And Vince is on tomorrow. All right, what are you doing tomorrow?
Depends on the time. I can probably make it work.
All right, I'm gonna reach out to Vince. I think he would have a good time with it. Have you ever had him on your podcast?
I have. I've had him on a couple times, and I actually am due to get him back on. So this will be a good way to have it. So
I actually, so we'll get a hold of you tomorrow to have you back on again tomorrow with Vince.
All right.
I love that guy. He's amazing. And I'll end up watching, now that I've basically interviewed you to see your level of knowledge, I'll probably watch all your stuff as well. I don't really watch any of the political podcasts because I do one myself. And so getting into some of the metals and how does the geopolitical part affect how things are, yeah, I'll study that. But all right, before you go, I want to show you our new commercial for DCF. You got to see it. I haven't seen it yet.
All right.
So this should be really good. Let's go ahead and play it.
Oh, hi. I almost didn't see you there. Welcome to DCF Buns, where you can find the freshest buns in town, if I do say so myself. Oh, our master bakers teach class every week. So whether you're new to baking or trying to improve your culinary skills, we got you covered. And we can help you bake the cake of your dreams. We'll even clean your cake if you want. And if you don't want to bake anything yourself, we have loads of fresh buns available in a variety of shapes and sizes. Check us out at dcfbuns.com to learn more. DCF Buns, we keep the buns hot and the deals hotter. Buns.
That's pretty good.
So the reason why
what's the advertising rule? I was going to say there's got to be some reason.
there is an advertising rule. So you're not allowed to advertise guns on a certain radio or TV. So we advertise buns, and you have guns in the background. We don't talk about them. We just talk about buns, and people go to DCF Buns, which takes you to DCF Guns, and say, hey, now that you're here, let's tell you what we actually do. So everyone got to see our commercial. It's a pretty good commercial.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to do it. Sometimes you gotta get creative when the thought police are telling you what you can and can't say.
These guys are crazy.
So.
All right. Well, I apologize for calling you Brian instead of Ben. They screwed up on their paperwork, not me.
No,
so
it's
I
all
just want to
good.
make sure I clear. But Ben, how do people follow you so we can put it up and we'll get you back on? And they'll call you about tomorrow too. I think that'll be an awesome conversation.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely excited about that. You can find anything I'm working on at Contrarian Corner, whether it's on YouTube, Substack, on the podcast apps as well. And then if you want to find me on Twitter, then it's just Ben Kelleran, and you can kind of look at my feed a little bit, but it's more shit posting than anything serious on that. I kind of save the market research and podcasts and all that stuff for the Substack and the YouTube. So that's where I'm at.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for coming on. I really appreciate you. God bless you. And yeah, I get pretty excited having young people on because, man, we need to hand the reins over to you. I'm ready to go play golf and fish and hunt and let you guys handle the rest. So it's encouraging.
Yeah.
It's encouraging.
We need to make sure the boomers get the message though too. Seems like they're holding on for dear life. So
they need to get out. I mean, look at Congress. It's like a blue-haired bingo hall.
So right? Gerontocracy. Yep.
So how do we? This is where when I first started the show and I had them say, if 200 men were here, if 200 young men in every city would show up places, these blue hairs would run for their life on both sides of the aisle, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is I think it's very kind of separated or decentralized as far as what young guys are seeing and doing. But there's a lot of guys that are basically my age or younger that think a lot of the same things that I do. And it's just a matter of kind of putting them all in the same place and kind of having everyone pulling the same direction. So when that happens, I have no idea. I think we're going to need to see a real generational shift in the next 5 or 10 years for that to really start to take place. But you're already seeing the political Overton window shifting and what people can talk about, all that stuff starting to shift very quickly. So I think that's another thing to keep an eye on for the next 5 or 10 years.
Well, I've been called everything from racist to an they tried the racism part. My family's interracial. They tried the homophobe part. My business partner's a gay, married, Jewish father of 2. And I accept people where they are, not where I want them to be. There's no part of me now it's the anti-Semite. So now I'm a self-loathing individual. So I'm really good at that stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of magic words they'll try and use to put you in a box. So it's not something I think is going to work for much longer. I
agree with you. Thanks, brother. I appreciate you very much. I'll have you on tomorrow.
Thanks for having me.
All right, take care. Ben, see, this is the encouragement that I get. I'm ready to retire. I'm actually not that old. Well, maybe I am. Compared to Ben, I am. But I'm encouraged by, 1, his intelligence, 2, his ethics and moral value, and then his understanding of things that, of how it works. And most people in our end of the world, we rely on other people to do that for us, except for me. I'm just a weirdo. But we look at the things that are happening in Congress and legislatures and all these different places where we've walked past the young people. And what young people we do put in those positions, they just carry on and do exactly what the blue hairs tell us to do. And it leaves us at a material disadvantage because we're on our way out, they're on their way in. They should put their stamp on life and be able to get to a better outcome. So, well, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then I literally have 10 minutes. Actually, we're going to take a commercial break, and I'm going to hand it over to Patrick. He's going to finish up 2 reasons, one of which I have to go up to, I'm going up to Weld to go to a debate for the Colorado State Chair. Man, I'll put it out there so you guys can go to it. I'm not so much thinking that, man, our party is so broken. It's so broken in so many different ways. And frankly, it's debilitating to even have the conversation about how it's broken or why it's broken. We just, everything we turn around and we have these same people who are so punch drunk for power and for position and money that we promote retards. We promote people that frankly are just not smart, don't have the ability to lead, and they wonder why the party at a large degree is broken and how retarded people that betray the people get put in the positions of power and authority in Congress, on the bench, in legislatures on the state level, DAs, lawyers. They're just all a bunch of weaklings, and we have to tolerate it. And I don't think we should have to do that. So tonight should be interesting. We'll see how it goes, but I'm going to take a commercial break, and Patrick's going to come back and kind of finish it up for you. So we'll be right back.
Oh, hi. I almost didn't see you there. Welcome to DCF Buns, where you can find the freshest buns in town, if I do say so myself. Oh, our master bakers teach class every week. So whether you're new to baking or trying to improve your culinary skills, we got you covered. And we can help you bake the cake of your dreams. We'll even clean your cake if you want. And if you don't want to bake anything yourself, we have loads of fresh buns available in a variety of shapes and sizes. Check us out at dcfbuns.com to learn more. DCF Buns, we keep the buns hot and the deals hotter. Buns.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
Y'all, I Antifa'd so hard that my toddler is literally playing pretend burning down federal buildings. He was waving a stick around saying, burn, burn, burn. And he looked at me and he said, I burned federal building, Mommy. Too good, too good.
Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for staying with us as Joe heads up to handle his business and I jump in to close out our business here today. What you saw right there is a product of today's society, which is programming our children as young as 3-4 years old to grow up to hate this country, believe it is a racist country, and that to act out violently is okay. That's parenting in 2026, especially by liberal women. They're a problem in our society. And the reason why they have run amok is because real men have sat down. They weren't real men. Real men have retreated. Men have retreated. The only ones left are the ones that are standing up, speaking truth, and taking arrows every day in their chests. Those are the real ones that are sticking up every day. And if we had more of us sticking up every day, we wouldn't have this going on in our society. This would not be tolerated in a sane, loving home environment. It is not normal for a 3-4-year-old to walk around with sticks pretending to light federal buildings on fire unless, guess what? They've been taught it. They've seen it. They're Antifa. Did you hear it? I Antifa'd so hard. That's her priority. Okay, what type of loving, nurturing environment could that child possibly grow up in? What type of damage is that child going to endure at the hands of that leftist mom for the next 8, 10, 15 years? And then get indoctrinated through the schools? They're making super-tards is really what they're doing. They're making super-tards. They're starting with the kids at this age with the parents, and then they rev them up, get them into the schools. The schools keep revving them up while they get it at home, right? And it's building and building and building, poof. So yeah, as Joe was talking earlier with our guest, talking about, this 10 years is going to set us up for the next 50 to 100. Yeah, no shit. And the real men need to get a handle on today's society. Our society has spiraled out of control because this has happened and men were beaten into a corner, named, name-called, shamed, put down every which way, misogynistic, racist, right? Find any which way to attack a man to finally make them retreat, to allow this foolishness to rise to the surface. And that's what we have now. And this goes on throughout homes throughout this country. Unfortunately, there's a lot of children growing up in homes like this without the strong male figure there, without the dad there. And you can't say that doesn't make a difference. Having dads in life makes a tremendous amount of difference. They set the boundaries. They reinforce the expectation. They let you know that acting out of emotion isn't okay. You can express your emotion, but that doesn't mean you get to act on that emotion, right? Very fine lines. And when you just have a mom in a house like that or a lesbian couple in a house like that, this is what gets taught to their kids that, hey, let's go burn down federal buildings. I'm not, maybe priorities need to change in our society. deprogramming of the mentally ill on the left needs to happen now, society, to give our younger generations a chance, to give this country a chance. The idea that let me try this differently. The way the left sees the world is not compatible with the way we live in America today. So where do we go from here, right? When you take male masculinity and beat it down to where it is today, where the majority of 18 to 30-year-old men are sitting in their parents' basement playing video games, jerking off, and smoking weed, it's because they have been beaten down to the point, and they know if they speak up, they'll get shot right down and be put down back in the hole. So they just stay in the hole. And that's what is the game plan. That's what is wanted, is to make sure strong male voices aren't created, aren't amplified. And if you start thinking about creeping up, saying things, right, we're going to shoot you right back down into the hole. And that's why there's not that many truth tellers out there, strong male figures that are out there in the space talking about society. They're not. They're not going to the school board meetings either. They're not going and being active in their kids' educations, right? It's tiring. It's hard being a parent. I get it. You work 9-10 hours a day. You drive another hour to 2 hours a day. You get to see your kid for an hour, 2 hours a day, Monday through Friday if you're lucky. I get that. But what do you want? Where do you want to leave this country, and how do you want your child to be viewed when you're gone off this planet is what you really got to ask yourself. And if you're a parent that's sitting there right now saying this guy's an idiot, he doesn't know jack shit, I just want to get my pension, make sure I get mine, get by, and then my kids, God bless, good luck, here's a little check after I die, good luck. Well, then you're part of the problem too, because you're just setting your kids up to fail, especially if you're a white male. Because if you haven't been paying attention, the target is on their back. And once you're gone, there is no protection for them. And you're not doing anything to make sure there's protection for them. So you're actually hanging your kids out to dry for the future. And I refuse to do that. I refuse to have my boy in 15, 20, 30 years, for however long, him to be vilified and have a target on his back simply because he's a white male that has different beliefs. Like, that's not going to happen on my watch. And that's why I'm doing what I do every day. Come to work, strapping in with Joe, fighting in the courts, doing everything I can do to make sure that I'm doing everything possible to say, no more. And once my court case is over with, I'll be doing more stuff, right? Like, they have brought me into this fight where I don't see a pathway out of this fight. And I need more men to understand that. More guys need to understand you need to get into this fight for the benefit of your kids. It's not about you. It's about the future. Just like what your parents, grandparents, great-grandparents did for you before you got here. We owe all of them a debt of gratitude. And the way to pay that is to do what they did when the time called, which is stand up and fight. Stand up and fight. You retreat to your corner, you lose. You say, oh, it doesn't really impact me. It's fine. You lose. Because eventually they'll take enough inches till it impacts you directly in your face. And then when it's in your face, there's nowhere else for you to go. Just like the left built their alliances with marginalized groups, this group is marginalized, this group is marginalized, and it's all because of these white males over here. Well, the right needs to start organizing. Strong males need to start organizing to push back against this garbage on the left that's come for the past 30, 40 years nonstop. I want to play this other clip for you because we're talking about parenting. Parenting is a primal instinct that has been ignored, and actually our government has told our parents, specifically our women, you don't need men in the household. We'll supplement that income. We'll make sure you get your public assistance, rent control, right? Make sure we make it as easy as possible for you to get by, to make sure the man is out of the house, because we don't want that child to have a strong masculine figure around him. Well, take a look at this one. Take a look at this family out of Canada. Let's play cut 2.
So a wild and frankly disturbing story out of the state of Utah. A transgender woman and her partner are accused of kidnapping her child, allegedly to go take her to Cuba and get gender reassignment surgery. Madeline Rivera live in Washington with more on this. Maddie, what do we know?
Hey, good morning, Bill. So the case prompted the Justice Department to send a government plane to Cuba to bring the 10-year-old child back to the U.S. Federal officials say the child's biological father, Rose Inessa Ethington, who's now a transgender woman, and her partner took the 10-year-old for what was supposed to be a camping trip in Alberta, Canada, late last month. But they never made it to their hotel or campground. Instead, after crossing the Canadian border, the couple allegedly flew from Vancouver to Mexico City. Then they took another flight from Mexico to Havana. All of this happening, by the way, without the knowledge and permission of the child's biological mother. Court documents don't state whether Rose and her partner were actually planning on getting the child gender-affirming surgery in Cuba, but the FBI says they found notes at the couple's home with instructions from a D.C. mental health therapist to, quote, send the therapist the $10,000 and instructions on gender-affirming medical care for children. Rose's partner had withdrawn that exact amount in late March, per the complaint. Family members of the 10-year-old boy say they were worried Rose had manipulated him to identify as a girl. Rose's brother tells the New York Times she had been pushing for the child to get transition surgery since he was 5 years old. This seemed to be clearly all be coming from Rose. Rose's brother says it was heartbreaking and hard for me to see. Rose and her partner have been charged with federal international parental kidnapping laws. They'll face the remainder of their court case in Utah. Bill.
How about torture? What they're doing to children. And it's only one side that keeps pushing this affirming care, mutilation surgeries. It's only one side that keeps doing it. To the point where this tranny kidnapped his own child to try and get surgery done in Cuba, hiding it from the mom. In what rational world is this acceptable behavior? And once again, our federal government is doing diddly-poo, putting any type of pressure on every state across this country to enact state laws to outlaw gender-affirming care. They're not doing it. Okay? And don't say that they can't. They 100% can. That's why the drinking age in every state is 21. Because the federal government says, okay, all 50 states, you're going to make the drinking age 21 for everybody. Otherwise, we're going to withhold highway funds. And then, boom, here we are, drinking age 21 for God knows how long. So it is possible to be done. They just don't want to do it because the chaos favors who? The op. And here we are. Everyone wants chaos. Everyone wants fighting with each other. The only ones that don't want it are just normal folks like us. We want normal civility. We want boys to be boys, girls to be girls. And guess what? If you want to be a tranny, that's fine. When you're 18, do whatever the hell you want to do. But keep that shit out of the public spaces, in the schools, in the pools, in the locker rooms. Keep it out. You hear that? 10 years old. 10 years old. Like that kid at 10 knows what they're doing. Kid at 10 is probably lucky if knows right from left or how to tie their shoes at this day and age. Especially if that thing is their parent. I guarantee that kid doesn't know how to tie his shoes. But that kid knows about sexuality and that, I want to make sure my pee-pee gets chopped off at 10 years old. It's absolutely disgusting. And that we have to always have these conversations. It's a mental disease. It is gender dysphoria. Why do these people keep getting their voices heard? Why are these practices not outlawed? Why is the Fed not cracking down on every state that is still allowing these types of surgeries and treatments to take place? Same reason why the SAVE Act doesn't get passed. Same reason Tina's in jail. Same reason why nothing ever gets done that we want done. Because it doesn't benefit us. It doesn't benefit those up top. So it's not going to get done. Instead, we just keep on the hamster wheel until more and more men start getting up, getting out, getting loud, getting in the face. And that's what we have to do. There's no other option. If you think people above you are going to solve these problems for us, they're not. Cops aren't going to solve, because you know what's going to happen if you have a child that, is confused about their gender. You say, no, you were born a boy. You're going to stay a boy, not in this house. Well, out here in Colorado, they'll come and take their kid away from you, right? So, you need to wake up. You need to not tolerate this shit anymore. All men need to come together and realize that we are the ones that are responsible for going forward. Okay, our politicians aren't going to handle it. Our government's not going to handle it. The police are going to side with the politicians because the politicians are the one that signed their checks. So at the end of the day, it's us that needs to be at the forefront, making as much stink, making as much noise, putting ourselves out there as much as possible to shine the light and to expose the hypocrisy and the stupidity of these policies that are shoved down our kids' throats every day because we know better. And if you don't know better, I don't know what to tell you. I feel bad for you. I really do. I feel bad for you if you do not see how awful this is. I feel bad for you if you don't understand the trauma that thousands and hundreds of thousands of kids are going through because of gender-affirming care, because they're not actually being treated the right way. And they're actually going to have more damage done later in life when they actually start figuring things out. Especially when you're actually programming kids at 4, 5, 6, 7 years old that, hey, you're gay. No, that looks like a boy over there, but he may be a girl. So we might not want to say if it's a boy or girl because you don't want to offend anybody, right? Just basic human stuff that has gone on since the dawn of time. Now in 2026 seems to be one of the most complicated issues of all time. It's crazy to me. And then if you think the parenting isn't bad enough, check out this clip from another lefty mom and the LGBTQ brigade. Let's play it.
I just wanted to share this experience that I had with you really quick. I was taking my kiddo to the dentist and this was on the ground in the parking lot blowing across the ground in the wind. And my kiddo was like, "Mommy, look." And a little girl got to it before he could. And she was with her father, this middle-aged white man. And the little girl runs up to it and picks it up with excitement. And she's like waving it around. And the dad comes up to her very quickly and says, "Give me that." And he literally bends it. You can see where it's bent. He bends it in half as if he's about to crumple it up and throw it away. And I'm 10 steps behind him. Instead of just staying silent, I said, "I'll take that flag if you're just gonna crumple it up and throw it in the garbage." He turns around, sees that he's been caught, and is shocked. And he just kind of like gives me this look and is like, "Here, it's all crumpled up. Here, if you want it, you can have it." I said, "That's a nice flag." So I take it from his hand and the little girl's just watching us. He says to me, "Well, that's a matter of opinion." I said, "No, this is actually a matter of human rights." And we just so happened to both be walking into the same dental office for our children. So that man got to face his fears head on. And you better believe I wore this thing in my back pocket the entire time. And I just happened to bump into him like 7 times in the dental office. And he was sitting there watching me when I left. So this man was constantly reminded of the hate that he just lives in. But it was a very clear reminder to me that hate is not born in us. Hate is learned, because that little girl ran up and she was so excited about this flag, and her father, who has learned to hate people, couldn't stand the idea of his little girl innocently loving, innocently being happy. And I will be flying this very loved flag now in our home.
I don't know if you can see it on camera or not, but my head's actually twitching. My head started to twitch as the camera came back on because I couldn't with that video. I felt a little, I just felt it in the top of my forehead, the pressure mounting. All right, that lady she's disgusting. Let's start there. She is disgusting. And let's talk about that flag. That flag is purposefully designed as a rainbow to attract young kids to it, right? It's a grooming tool. That's all it is. It's a grooming tool. If it was a colorful bag floating around in the parking lot, the kid would have picked that up too, right? So like, let's be honest here. The flag is purposely designed in the rainbow colors to attract kids to it, to bring them into their circle, to start the grooming process immediately. That's what it all means. Plain and simple. So when she's talking about, yeah, that dad should have thrown that shit in the trash. I wouldn't have given it to her. From jump, yeah, no, lady, this is going in the garbage. My kid's not touching it. I'm not letting you have it. I have it now. This is going in the trash. It's not human rights. This is a piece of shit flag that has that means nothing to me. So this goes in the trash. It's a piece of trash. It's on the floor. So I don't want to hear that, lady. And then she has to act just like leftists do, very petty, very, the child was just so happy to be, and I made sure I took this flag and showed it, right? She's going to be one of the first ones that's going to get tossed to the gallows once the left really take charge. When the whole exposure of the main plan behind it and communism installed in the U.S., she's going to be one of the first ones that's going to be strung up because she's a useful idiot. And she said right there, like, kids are taught hate. Anything else kids are taught, ma'am? Kids being taught to be gay at 4 or 5, be trans, bisexual at 4 and 5, because that's what you guys do. That's what you do when you introduce this into the schools, into the literature, into the shows, Netflix, on Hulu, right? On all these other shows that kids are watching. It's everywhere. It's the indoctrination going after kids because they want these kids programmed. They want these kids programmed. They don't want them to have families, right? They want to keep the population small. This is a whole big plan, guys. This is like a whole big plan, and the kids are a piece of that plan. Okay? They are programming these kids, right? You see it now in the 20, 30-year-old college liberal women that are out there now like, oh, I want a family. Why did I decide to put my career first? Right? I want a family. It's all part of how they've been progressed through the system. And this progression through the system now is the sexuality portion of it, where it's not going to lead to more production of white children because they don't want white children. It's not going to lead to that because these children coming up are not going to have families. They're not going to procreate. They're going to be all screwed up with their gender transition surgeries, the puberty blockers, all the other chemicals they're putting in their bodies. They're not going to be able to procreate and have families. At least the ones that are living under these types of parents' households, which unfortunately is 30, 40% of the country. I wouldn't say 50, but I'd say at least 30 to 40% of this country is mentally retarded. Anyone in education, mentally retarded. Anyone that works in an equity department, mentally retarded. Anyone that works in local media, mentally retarded. Anyone that works in the court system, mentally retarded, right? You can just keep going down the list. Keep just going down the list, right? It's about 30, 40%. And that's what these people are. They're just mental midgets, and then they make their kids worse, right? I don't know if you guys seen this or not, but a recent study came out that for the first time that it's ever been measured, this generation of kids coming up is actually functioning lower than their parents as far as like reading, critical thinking, math, like basic everyday functioning skills. It's because, look at your parenting. And look where the men are. The men aren't. Do you see any strong dads in these videos? No. You think that's on purpose? Yeah. Because strong dads wouldn't tolerate this shit in their house. Strong dads wouldn't marry these and have children. They just wouldn't. And more men are becoming aware of this. The younger generation, at least the high school, early college kids, ones that were hooked into TPUSA before Turning Point did what it did. That group of generation was awake, but now they're trying to deprogram that group. Like if you pay attention to what's going on, there are massive psyops everywhere. There is mental warfare everywhere, all trying to keep us distracted and divided. But we just need to stay focused and realize what is actually going on in our society. Because they want us divided. They want all this happening. That's why no one ever gets anything done. They still collect their 6-figure checks up in Congress. They get their pension. They get their security detail. They get their budget, where then they pay their family members to work for them, right? Look at Ian Omar. What is it, 30 million? Oh, no, account error. Oh, I'm only worth 35K. I wish I had an account error like that. That's amazing. And then you sign off on it, too. Like, oh, no big deal. Oh, if they're saying I'm worth 30 mil, okay. But why would you sign off on that if you know you're not worth 30 million? Wouldn't you say, oh, there's a problem here? No, but then they throw it in right now, all these smoke screens. We'll see what actually happens. I see Tom Homan's talking about, she's committed fraud. I've seen Benny Johnson give an interview recently talking about the stuff that he's hearing that, oh, she's going to get the... I'll wait and see on that because they all protect their own. Every which way, they all protect their own. And speaking of the left, Tampon Tim did a little media blitz the other day with Jimmy Kimmel talking about the fraud and, playing the, oh, I didn't know in Minnesota. Listen to this. Let's play cut 4.
In all of this is these multiple cases of benefits fraud that were happening. Now, I want to ask you, did it take an extraordinary long time for you to know that was happening?
No.
Is that just something that has been spread?
It happens in other states. We were going back to many of these people were prosecuted in 2021. He used it as an excuse because it was a perfect thing to do to say there was fraud. Imagine that. Coming from this guy, he would know fraud where it was at.
Yeah.
So used it to.
He's like Sigmund fraud.
Yeah. demonize the immigrant community, especially the Somali community. And I said what he was doing was the programs in Minnesota. Look, we are a generous state. We're also like California. We're a payer state. We pay more in than we get back to support red states that don't support their people. But they came in to try and destroy those programs. And you know, that's again, Rich, destroy programs that don't help them by billionaires who commit this fraud. But no, it was an excuse for them to do it.
Yeah, complete non-answer. He was aware of the fraud going on, didn't care about it because he was getting his at some point during it, and he's just simply dismissing it, even though it was billions of dollars stolen from the American people that was siphoned back to Somalia, back to Al-Shabaab, some terrorist organization. Hey, no harm, no foul, American. Shut up. Every state does it. Every state does it. So does it make it right? No, but that's the mentality. That is their mentality there. They don't give two shits about financial responsibility. They don't care that it's our money that's being siphoned off. And let's be honest, they're all millionaires. They're all millionaires. Okay, governors, mayors, federal government politicians, right? I know at the local level, they're not so millionaires, but they're still mostly well off. They don't give a shit. They're not impacted by their policies. He doesn't care that it makes it harder for the American person to go to a grocery store to buy a gallon of milk. He doesn't care that it stretches your money a little bit more because he's got millions of dollars. It makes no difference when fraud happens with him. He doesn't give a shit, right? And this is the thing that drives me nuts. This is a hand-to-God true story, and this is what is so infuriating about our system. Tax season, right? Everyone had to file April 15th, yada, yada, yada. My wife and me filed early. We got a letter from the IRS, and then we got a phone call from our accountant. Ready for this? They froze our return over, drum roll please, $5.12. I shit you not. They called us. There was something like mismatching with the medical coverage that we had, and we were off by $5.12. They put a freeze on everything. They told us, we are freezing you. You're not going to get anything until you give us a call and we rectify this. Over $5.12. The IRS did that. So you're telling me the federal government, state governments can't audit and keep track of all the fraud that's going on every which way? They certainly can. They just don't give a shit. But then they expect me to make sure that $5.12 comes out of my pocket. And that's exactly what I'm talking about here. Tim Walz and all those politicians don't give a shit because that money doesn't mean anything to them. Because they're rich. They're millionaires. They're part of the club, baby. They got the best accountants, best lawyers, best tax write-offs. They know the games they're playing. Us regular folks down here, that $5.12, I'm going to make sure I get every last dime out of you. Billions of dollars going back to Somalia. Billions of dollars going through the Minnesota airport. That TSA agency at the gate check told let it go through. Just let that money leave the country. But make sure you get my $5.12, you pieces of shit. And that's why this government, that's why there's so much anger in this country, because every American experiences basically the same thing, just differently. That you know you're doing everything right, a little mistake here, an oversight there, nothing purposely being done, but I'm going to make sure I get every last dime out of you, sir. Why? Because you did everything right. And then everyone else that does everything wrong keeps getting the free handouts, free shit. Because why? Because we're the ones that are doing everything right. We're the ones that empty our wallets. We're the ones that keep going, do, here we go. Oh, take more. Oh, more? More, sir. More, sir. You need some more. You don't say. Just wait. Just wait until the left really gets all the power. See what they're doing in their test runs, right? Look what's going on in New York City. Look what's going on look what's going on with Spamberger in Virginia. Look what's going on in Oregon, Washington, Illinois. Look what's going on in certain parts of Texas. They are going to come back and they're going to open up the floodgates on us to pop out the bottom of whatever economy we have left, to make us drive into universal socialism. And with that is going to become changes to our Constitution. Our Constitution will no longer be our Constitution. The Bill of Rights will be scrapped because we're going to need to be dependent on the government. They're purposely doing this to us. They're purposely making sure this fraud keeps on going and the grifts keep happening, all while making sure they take every single cent out of the American taxpayer's wallet. Where is that going to leave the American feeling, the American taxpayer feeling? It's a pressure. The pressure keeps mounting until something's going to pop. Now, what that pop's going to look like and what that's going to be, I don't know. But I do know I'm getting frustrated being treated like a second-class citizen in my own country when I'm doing everything the right way. Pay my taxes, raise my kid, get fired for being an American, still can't get into the court system, but I still go to work and pay my taxes. I'm an idiot for this, but I still freaking do it. Eventually, I'm going to stop because I get no bang for my buck. And I still pay taxes. My property tax then goes to the school district that I'm suing. So I really feel like I'm stuck, and the only thing I have is you. The people that I can talk to on this screen every day. The ones that listen, the ones that understand. I thank you for that. This is my therapy session. And then soon enough, eventually when I do get to court, Cherry Creek's going to pull all my videos and be like, oh, this guy's crazy. And then I'm going to look at him, I'm going to laugh and say, all of you are pieces of shit because you guys have driven me to this career. You took my livelihood and everything from me. And this is a news flash to everyone else. This is how the communists work, with impunity, and they keep coming. One at a time, bink, 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 bink. Every which way. And then I'm going to finish with this clip today. Akeem Jeffries was asked a hilarious question at a press briefing today. Let's take a look.
Got a question there.
Why do voters view Democrats so poorly?
Did your dad give you that question? It's a great question in that. I'm going to have words with you after this, Mono. Listen, I think that we exist in an era right now where the American people are understandably frustrated with institutions because far too many people in this country are struggling to live paycheck to paycheck. They can't thrive and can barely survive. And so there's a frustration with Congress, there's a frustration with institutional political parties, whether that's Democrats or Republicans, certainly a frustration with the courts, with organized religion, with the media, frustration with institutions of higher education, and, of course, frustration with the current President of the United States of America. There's a great frustration that applies to every organized institution in this country, and Democrats are not immune from that. And we do have a responsibility to continue to convince the American people that as a party, we're actually focused on making their life better.
Did you actually pay attention to all that and hear what he had to say? Because there's a whole lot of nothing. And it was cute. A reporter brought their young daughter to work today, and the simple question was asked. I don't know if you heard it at the very beginning, but the question was simply asked, why do voters view Democrats so poorly? Well, if you watch the beginning of my block, you could see why. Okay, well, let's start looking at the indoctrination of the kids, the attacks on kids, the attacks on parents, going after parents that spoke up at school board meetings, labeling parents domestic terrorists. Maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe that has something to do with the belief in open borders and entitlements to illegal immigrants must be paid out as some sort of retribution for past harm that somehow you and I are responsible for. Maybe that has something to do with that policy. Maybe that has something to do with increasing taxes to make sure that illegal immigrants get everything. Maybe that has something to do with that. Maybe that has something to do with what's going on in Virginia with the increase of taxes, property tax, sales tax, new business tax, and regulations being stacked up against the American people that are trying to start businesses. Maybe that's a reason why you're viewed so poorly. Maybe that you attack the First Amendment and you get people deplatformed, you get people fired from their jobs for being honest. How about that's why the Democrats are not viewed as favorably? How about you don't view this country as being a great country? You don't view this country as the land of opportunity. You view this country as the land of systemic oppression. Maybe that's why your party is viewed as so unfavorably amongst Americans today. And Hakeem Jeffries, you answered it in your answer. You said people are tired of the courts, people are tired of the higher ed, people are tired of this, people are tired of that, right? You want to know why? Because at the end of the day, all those institutions are compromised by special interests because you guys take your money from your donors and you do what your donors want and not what the American people want. And that's why the frustration in America is at an all-time high. Because right now, we are the ones that are in tuned, no. There's enough alternative media sources where people are getting more and more information that is not being put in by the mainstream media. So more and more people are becoming informed. And that's what they don't want. They don't want an informed populace because the informed populace will call bullshit on everything that they say. That's why they don't like Joe's show. Joe's informed. He calls bullshit when he sees it. And it's really hard for them to keep hiding because the more informed you are and the more you listen to these assholes on the other side talk, you know they don't know what the hell they're talking about. You know they don't have a game plan. Has anyone heard what their game plan is for the election campaigns coming up other than we want Trump out? No, because you know what the game plan is? Marxism. Straight up, that's what it is. They're just going to put a pretty face on the front of it. It's not going to be Kamala this time. It might be Newsom. But they're going to dress it up real nice because they learned from the last time. And they're going to shove this out there to the American people again. And the majority of American people don't want it. And if nothing is done about our election systems, if the fraud isn't dealt with, we're getting it. We're going to get it. Right? But the Democrats are not popular. They're not. There is nothing on their platform that I think a reasonable, sane person would actually agree with. They act like the Constitution is a suggested warranty instead of the founding document of our country that actually protects the citizens from the overreach of government. The Democrats are the ones that are the part of the government overreach at all ends. The First Amendment argument, you say what I want you to say, otherwise you're no good to. That's not how the First Amendment works here. That's not the premise of the First Amendment here in America. America is supposed to be allowed to say what you want to say. Period. People lived and died and fought for all this. And it is being slowly eroded away by this one political party that, I don't know why we're so unpopular. We know why you're unpopular. You know why you're unpopular. You just can't say it out loud. You can't say the quiet part out loud, at least not yet. Hopefully we never get to that point where you feel emboldened enough to say the quiet part out loud. If we ever get to that point, it's checkmate. But that's why real men need to stand up, start speaking out, start acting out, start making this difficult. Because the more we sit here, bitch and complain and not do anything on your end to make this better, it won't get better. No one is going to make this better for you. You can't rely on the courts. You can't rely on the political leaders. You have to rely on yourself and God. That's it. Stand with God, walk with God, trust yourself, trust your character, instill that into your children, and fight like hell. Because they deserve to have a country better off than what we founded. And right now, we're the generation that's not leaving this country in better shape for our children. We're the generation that's not leaving this country in a better shape for our children. That's our legacy right now. Let's pray it out. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Dear Lord, thank you for the opportunity to sit in the chair today and spread the word to the people listening to Untamed Nation. Thank you, Lord, for having the ability to see my wife and kid today while I was at work. It was very nice for a little 20-minute break in the day just to see their smiling faces. It was a beautiful, beautiful break in an otherwise chaotic day. Dear Lord, thank you for America First Legal, the law group that is representing me taking on these communist Marxists out here in Colorado. We have a hearing on May 12th. Please, Lord, let the judges be fair and impartial and let the truth be heard that day. Dear Lord, please reach out and touch those that are struggling with their faith to nudge them in the right direction and bring them towards your light. There are signs everywhere. It's just a matter of what signs we see and when we see it and if we are able to connect the dots. So, Lord, thank you for just another beautiful day above ground. Hey, Grandma, Grandpa, Dad, miss and love you guys. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as is in heaven. Give us our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. In the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. All right, everyone. We got Vince and Ben back tomorrow, it seems like. Thanks for staying with us. Anything good in the comments? Thank you, Patrick. But you got more in your pocket during with Omar, not me. I definitely didn't make anything from Omar. That's what, yeah. They do need our kids, and our job is to protect our kids. And if you guys follow Erin from Colorado, follow her. She put up a pretty good post this morning. I saw it. Take a look at her. I would love to have her on the show with Joe. But all right, Joe will be in chair tomorrow. Until then, class dismissed.
Rise up untamed in the heart of the fire where the wild ones roam. Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Break the mold, chase the real, no more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever